What first date behavior is a deal breaker, regardless of other qualities? The only Tinder date I have ever been on. Things were fine until I noticed that the tops of her feet were tattooed with portraits of John Wayne Gacy and Charles Manson. Across her toes were the words "party dudes." When I asked her what was up with that, she said, "I just think they were really intelligent, misunderstood guys." Had a date with a guy who owned the sports bar we were at. He repeatedly suggested we go to his office or try to go someplace quieter. Date only lasted a couple hours, and that was only because I got on the topic of dogs with one of his friends. Went on a date with someone that I exchanged numbers with after crossing paths with them at a local market. We texted for about a week before finally meeting up and exchanged a lot of texts, covering a wide array of subjects and personal stories. She's new to the area and doesn't get out much. Day before the date, I ask her if she has anything in mind or any special requests for the date. She says it's up to me, she'll be down for anything. A local fancy beer bar is having a tap takeover from a Japanese brewery on this night, plus is in an area where there's lots of other cool things to do other than drink. Just in case, we meet up and I attempt to tell her what the plan is, but she insists on wanting to be surprised. We make our way to the bar and she immediately clams up and sits defensively with me. I asked her if this was a bad choice and she proceeds to berate me for choosing a bar as a date spot and goes on to tell me she's a recovering alcoholic and H addict, so I've ruined her night. I mentioned that never once in our convos was avoiding a bar brought up and reminded her that I tried to tell her what I had planned but she wanted to be surprised. She called me an butthole and I walked out on her mid-sentence. I went on a date with a girl who stole the salt and pepper pots from the restaurant when we left after our meal. Bruh. Not just talking about an ex, because we're adults and everyone has a past, but continuously calling exes crazy and blaming them for their relationships ending. Great point. When everyone else is crazy, maybe. Honestly, talking too much crap about others. A little is fine if you're telling a story, but too much and I assume you're a drama llama. Upvote for drama llama. Making a really big deal about something really small, not only for the reason of it showing their personality, but that it shows you two have inherently different priorities. Not only for the reason of it showing their personality, but that it shows you two have inherently different priorities. Oh my freaking god. That's so freaking obvious but I never thought of it that way. You have no idea how much grief you just saved me. Cheers. I had a guy offer me coke on the first date once. I mean, if I was into that it would have been a nice gesture I suppose, but I'll pass. I went on a date with this girl and I asked what she had done that day. She said hung out with her ex. Fine. Some people remain friends. I know I do. She said don't worry, we didn't have sex. I only blew him. I excused myself to go to the bathroom, found our waiter and paid the bill. After finishing my drink, I bailed. Nope. Only, I would have bailed, too. LOL, I posted this on another forum. I went on a date with all the red flags. Dude showed up half an hour late. He did tell me he would be late when I got there, but then told me he's always late to everything. He talked about how he used to be addicted to drugs and lost everything. He talked about his ex-wife. He talked about how his kids hate him and refuse to speak to him. He would only compliment my looks instead of anything I had to say. He would interrupt me. He tried to convince me to get in his car and go with him to a house he doesn't even own or rent. He talked about how he looks good in a purple silk shirt and leather jeans. It was the worst freaking date I'd ever had. Talking about how people never sleep with you. A. Awkward conversation. B. Makes me wonder why. What don't I know yet? C. Makes me think the only reason I'm here is for you to try and sleep with me. Stop complaining about people not sleeping with you to someone you might someday sleep with. It's super weird. Sounds like you found an incel. 1. Showing me a picture of his penis. Why do you have a picture of your penis? Is this normal? Am I naive? 2. Grabbing my boob. 3. Talked about all his money. He arrived with a bottle of homemade massage oil he wanted to take back to my place to use because he still lived with his parents. He parked his motorcycle in the handicapped spot and insisted on sitting next to a window so he could keep an eye on it. He told me he hoped I would wear a low-cut shirt to the date. He said I needed to pay him back for dinner by buying him some beers. He was still mad at his high school, he was in his 30s, for expelling him because they knew he was the only one smart enough to build a bomb, and he would if he wanted to. Holy crap, that is also bizarre. Sounds like the beginning of a comedy film. Talking about how wild and crazy they used to be, but they really want to try and date a normal guy. This agitated me greatly. It's okay to be a normie. For me, it's pushing boundaries. If a guy keeps trying to do or pressure me to do something I've said I'm uncomfortable with, even if it's something that seems like no big deal, I'm out. Apart from the fact that it's a clear sign of incompatibility, it also raises the question of whether I can trust that person to respect more serious boundaries. Recently saw a meme thing on Facebook. Yo, I know, Facebook is crap. That went along the lines of if you try to shove a finger up a guy's butt without asking, you find out that they really do understand the concept of ongoing consent and sexual boundaries. Asked that I rub calamine lotion on a rash she had behind her knees. Didn't ever really expect that to be a thing a date would ask me to do. I left. A recent Tinder date practically demanded to see my credit score. This was the first date, so I was put off quite a bit by the request. When I protested and assured her that my finances were sound, she went off on an epic tirade on how her last boyfriend, and most men, are leeches looking for women to take care of them. She did meet me at my office. She saw my new car when I pulled up. I paid for the first round of drinks because the waitress was cashing out and wanted to clear our check. I thought that was more than enough initially to show that hey, I'm a financially responsible adult. I eventually showed her my credit score on my phone. It's sitting at 780-ish because I had just bought a car. She asked to see my phone to make sure it wasn't a screenshot of someone else's report. I texted her the next day and told her that we weren't going to work. Whoa, that's a lot of nerve, or not enough tact, or both. Late and doesn't tell you they are going to be late until they're actually late. That or cancels last minute and doesn't seem to think there's anything wrong with that. Both of which are signs of lack of respect, and I can do that to myself, thank you very much, lol. Not only lack of respect, it's also a sign that they don't have their crap together and cannot be relied on. Being rude to waitstaff or treating them like slaves. Once went on a date with a lovely, funny and handsome man. He was from a pretty well-off family, so he was a little bit pretentious, but he seemed so nice and down to earth, so I agreed to go on a date with him. It was a nice restaurant, but it was quite busy. I used to work at a restaurant as a waiter, so I understand how difficult a busy night can be for waiters. Got maybe an hour into the date before I left. He was so rude to our waitress, treating her like his own personal maid and giving out to her for things beyond her control. When I confronted him about it, he said it's what she is paid for. He wanted her to prioritize us above all her other tables, called her over while she would be taking other orders or delivering other food, and get pissy when she wouldn't come straight to us while delivering to other tables. Called her some pretty crappy names, expecting me to laugh. He treated her like dirt. The poor girl looked like she wanted to cry, and I have no doubt that he not only delayed everyone else's meals but our own as well. He gave me a disgusted look when I told him I used to be a waiter and he was being a total butthole. I got up and left the prick with the bill. Handed the girl €30 tip before I left. I was planning to use it to split the bill with the guy, but she deserved it more. I contacted the restaurant the next day in case the guy decided to complain about the girl. Let them know she was very professional and lovely, and the guy was just an butthole. Edit. Thank you everyone for being so kind. I am still a kind of waiter at a high-end wine bar. It's nice to know that people are kind to people like me. Whoa. Went to sleep and woke up to this being my most popular comment ever. And thank you for the gold, kind stranger. It's much appreciated. Wow, you are a really nice person. That guy sounds like a total douchebag. His mates just so happened to be at the same bar we were meeting up at. One friend proceeded to question me on why I was a nurse and not a doctor. The date refused to buy me a drink when his friends joked about it, because he didn't believe in buying the girls drinks on the first date. I have no problem getting my own drinks. He was just so weird about it. And when he went to get himself a drink, His mate told me to never contact the date again for my own good. Well, he contacted me a couple weeks later letting me know he was an alcoholic with no job. Excellent. Nice friend. If they start talking about how excited they are to find someone like you because you're so perfect and they've been waiting all their life to find someone they feel disconnected to, run. In my experience, there's a reason people do this and move on quickly. I was too stupid and trusting with someone who was a manipulator. I'm legally blind, so these are probably going to be different from some of y'all's. Inviting me to a movie knowing full well I can't see any of it. I'll be bored and antsy the whole way through. Not getting along with my service animal. If it's you or the dog, I'm choosing the dog every time. And I'm not sorry. Messy living spaces. Most everyone has clutter and I'm no stranger to tripping over everything. But if you leave your priceless anything on the floor, please be aware that it's liable to be stepped on. Incompatible taste in music. I like pretty much everything, and as long as we can compromise it's cool. If you insist on listening to crappy pop country all the time, you're done. I have 3 senses, damaged olfactory nerve, no smell either, so if you're going to crap on one of the few things I can actually enjoy, we won't last long. Insisting on me drinking on a first date. I like to have a good time like anyone else, but I have no way to know if you're putting something in my drink. I am sorry about this one, but it takes a lot of trust before I'll drink with a new person. All I can think about after reading your comment is illegally blind people. When they speak, I listen, ask questions, etc. When I speak, he looks around the room and glances at his watch. Oh, sorry, didn't realize I was just here to hold the mirror. I'm not saying this is what happened, but when someone talks to me, I often discover that I have no idea what I should be looking at. If I look straight at her the whole time, that's kind of intense. I met a dude I met on a dating site once and he did so many things wrong. Despite the fact that we made a deal that we'd meet in public, he insisted that I come to his house. I refused and he was half an hour late. Came in dressed in sweatpants and an old sweater. I mean, I am not asking for a tux, but at least put some effort FFS. Spent the whole time talking. I barely got to say 2 words. Started bringing up weird heavy crap, his ex, and how he is ready to have kids. Was very pushy for physical stuff. TL. DR. Don't be that guy. 1. Hinting at what my salary or financial status is. 2. Sizing me up and downright asking if I was a baby maker. I'm a guy. I recently went on a date with a girl I met online, who brought her mom along. I mean, her mom wasn't along the entire time, but she was present in the building. We went to see a movie. The entire time, I kind of understand how online dating can be scary, but if you are so afraid you have to bring your mom along, don't do it. I was talking to a girl online once and we were discussing going out on a date. I think we were both mid to late 20s and she had been incredibly sheltered. She still lived at home, didn't have a driver's license, etc. We never met up because she insisted that her parents had to meet me first. I promptly told her that I wasn't in high school anymore and noped out of the conversation. Demand that I pay for our date. Not ask or expect, but demand and then talk about how you never ever pay when you go out with people. I paid and never spoke to her again. Any signs of poor hygiene. I don't care how interesting you are or even how good you look. It cancels everything out immediately for me. I can't imagine touching a person like that or what their living environment must look like. I had a guy show me his dong pics in his car while his phone was on the dash for GPS. Then he showed me nudes pictures of other women had sent him, all on the dashboard awkwardly. Extremely creepy. Shows you have no respect for me or those girls' pics, and have no boundaries. He was attractive and we had a lot of shared interests, but got the frick out of the car by the next corner. We sat down at a restaurant and I ordered a beer. After the waiter brought it, she says, using that to hide your insecurities. Mentally noped out of that date and ordered a second and third. Now I was hoping it would make you attractive. Refusing to acknowledge that my opinions, knowledge or experience mean anything. I've had a few of these. Here's one of the worst. I'm a British woman and 2 of my interests are football and real ale. I was a member of CAMRA, the campaign for real ale. So this guy says, I'll take you to a real ale pub. You'll love it. There were loads of really excellent pubs in the area we were planning to meet, and so I suggested 2 or 3 of the best. Dude says no. He'd take me to this other place he knew. Now I did quite a lot of work for camera at the time and was pretty sure I knew all the decent pubs in that area, but I'd never heard of this one and would have heard of any new openings. But whatever. Maybe it was an amazingly well hidden gem. Okay, I decided to keep an open mind. Well, it was a complete dive, and the beer, no choice of ales, was horrible. I thought hey, it was sweet of him to try, although I was slightly annoyed he didn't listen to me when I suggested good places. But then he started quizzing me about football. Every time I expressed an opinion he'd try to shoot it down, not because he knew more about it but because I was female. He asked how I got into it. Was it my dad or an old boyfriend? Neither. It was me by myself. Okay then. Prove you know your football. Explain the offside rule. Name every England captain since 1966. For context, I follow my team home and away and have done since 1996. I've missed one away match in 14 years and no home ones since 1998. I know football. He then argued with me because I ordered salmon when we went to eat and he didn't like salmon. Bringing your 7-month-old girl to the first date, and then saying what a good father I'd be and she needed a little brother or sister as soon as possible. Being on their phone the entire time. I get having to check every now and then or responding to an important text, taking a call, but the amount of times I've seen people sit on their phones for an entire date confuses the heck out of me. That's not confusing to me at all. They're not interested. Might as well save both people time and just call it an evening. Insisting on physical intimate contact on the first date is pretty lame, especially when you've known each other for a short amount of time. I went on a date with a guy who spent the whole time talking about what kind of fancy car he is going to buy soon and how expensive it is, because he is doing so well at work, making over 6 figures. He just did not stop talking about material things, and it was such a turn off. He was also extremely upset when I told him later I didn't want a second date. Had a date with girl a few years back. Within 10 minutes of meeting her she already described something I did as you do that like N. To be fair, she was from Northwest Indiana. Long time ago I went on a date with this gal. She wanted to be the one to take me out. Okay, cool. As she's driving I get an unexpected yawn that I tried my hardest to hold in, but it appeared while I was mid-sentence. She immediately insists that she thinks it's best we cancel so I can go home and rest. It's freaking 7 PM on a Friday night and I just worked a full day. Excuse me for yawning. Not that she was boring, just totally unexpected. I insist that I am fine and it came out of nowhere and not worry about it. Nope. B turns around and heads back to my place. I ask her if she would rather chill at my place and we get food delivered and watch a movie or something. She replies in a quiet voice I don't know and begins to speed. Once I noticed she was pee off over a freaking yawn and began to speed, I started to be a dong in hopes she would speed faster so we would get pulled over and she could get a ticket. Well, it worked. But while telling her how pathetic she's being over a yawn, I guess we ran a red light and a cop was on the other side of traffic. Lights start flashing behind us and the sounds of the siren got louder as he caught up. She literally locked up her brakes as she pulled over. Huge red flag to the cop. Him and his partner draw guns on us and shout for us to get out and have our hands up. Totally don't blame them. I was scared and freaking happy karma caught up with her. Once the questioning was over and I explained to the cops what was going on, they were pretty chill with me. Her expired license, expired insurance, expired registration, speeding, running a red light, danger to the public, some other charges, and a date gone to heck over a freaking yawn. Cops gave me a ride home after their backup took her away and had her car towed. They thought the yawn issue was pretty funny except everything else she did afterwards. Well dang, that escalated quickly. Humble bragging, exaggerating, flat out lying. Unless it's a blind date, I've usually done some form of research to be able to tell. It's a turn off because it makes me think this person is okay with lying. And this is just the first date. Frick you, I did invent cheese. I am surprised at how many issues I would regard as minor are concerned deal breakers. Looking down this post, that is. On a first date, A person is typically on their best behavior. If they act crappy that early on, then it'll only get worse from there. I haven't dated in about 12 years, but I remember going on a date and having a girl ask me about a TV show. I was only vaguely familiar with the program. She took it upon herself to walk me through the entire plot of the first season. After, "Are you going to watch it? You should totally watch it." I never did watch the show, and only saw her once or twice after that. Looking through these replies, the one that springs to mind for me is when I can sense I'm being tested. Dates can actually be shock horror, kinda fun if both sides are A, not massive creeps B, not holding the other to ridiculously high standard C, open-minded and willing to learn about another person's way of life culture. If you're reading these comments and it's making you feel anxious about dating, just be the most respectful, decent and attentive version of yourself and you'll be 100% fine. The rest is personal choice. One that falls under the same line of excess is trying to pry information out of someone. I was out of a relationship and was trying to put myself out there. It was a nice date, however he asked me what's a cute guy like you doing single. I kinda laughed it off and told him it was a long story and didn't want to talk about it. Truth was my last ex was a pose and it ended really bad, like cops involved, really bad. Talking about it can open the floodgates and I didn't want to unload on this guy. The thing was he kept prying for information until I told him, and by that time I was not feeling too great. There was no second date. This will probably be buried, but in my single days I had a couple of first and never agains. Fairness. The first one that comes to mind, she was foreign, from a Latin American country. I speak very little Spanish, but that's okay. Between her broken English and my broken Spanish we got on nicely. She was very pretty. We went out to a restaurant for dinner. There was music and dancing after dinner service too, so I was pretty excited for this date. Would have been a lot of fun, except almost as soon as we were seated, she disappeared to the ladies' room. She returned after 40 minutes. At this point, I had already asked for the check, saying I think I've been ditched, to the unquestionably understanding and discreet waiter. Yeah, he got an awesome tip too. While she was gone, the table filled. She came back and, weirdly, her English was much better, almost fluent. Actually, I didn't know she could teach a language. She explained she met a friend of hers outside of the bathroom. She was bouncing off the walls when she came back, and then accused me of hitting on the girl sitting next to me. Berated me in public over it. Actually, I stayed the course. I did not want to walk out on her if she was high. I'd at least make sure she got in a cab. We ate, made small talk. I didn't really care at this point. Any interest in her went out the crazy door, and then danced for a bit after. Another, she talked about herself the whole night. I didn't even get a chance to ask any questions. It was a non-stop monologue at 115% normal playback speed. She went on a rant about just wanting a normal guy, normal usual hobbies, 9-5 job, homebody, while she was not. Likes long walks on the beach and not much else type of guy. When the evening was over, she asked if there'd be a second date, and I said something along the lines of, I don't think so. You're looking for a normal guy, and I'm not that at all. I'm really quite outside of your definition of normal. And one last one for today, the athletic redhead looking for her soulmate with 10-year-old photos that did not show the extra 200 pounds of weight she'd gained since they were taken. I'm not sure if the extra weight came with her absolutely over-the-top racism or not. I actually excused myself from that meal and left the restaurant without saying anything. To answer a bit differently than most people, not being talkative does it for me. And no, I don't mean if you're a bit shy, nervous. I am too. But when I'm trying so much to make you talk, I pick different topics, ask you questions, and you're just there answering in a word or two. It sucks. And you could say, wow, but what if you are the boring one? Well then, you try and pick up a subject. I really feel like I'm a nice person and I can talk about anything. Just shoot. Also, another red flag, you tell me you're in a relationship. Really? If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.